It is a new week and I got a handful of stuff we need to get knocked off of our to-do list. So I'm to the point now I'm ready to start getting this guy straightened out in terms of all the little dings and dents it's got, which starts a crazy domino effect on what we got to get done today. So as you can see, this guy's covered up with mold and mildew. We got algae growing on the roof skin, so this guy's got to get yanked outside. We need to hit it with a power washer, really get it cleaned up so we can see where we're at. Now here's where the domino effect starts. My driveway's on a crazy slope downhill, so it's not quite as simple as just dropping this thing to the ground, pushing it outside, washing it, pushing it back in, and calling it a day at that. So if we're gonna go to the effort to get it out there, we might as well crawl up underneath it, hit the undercarriage, really get it cleaned up for paint or undercoating or whatever we're gonna do there. So if we're gonna do the undercarriage, we might as well go ahead and hit the engine bay. If we're gonna hit the engine bay, drivetrain's gotta come out. Drivetrain's gotta come out. We gotta go ahead and do a health check on this motor to see if it's usable in its current state, or if there's anything we need to address while the thing is out of the car. So that's where we're gonna start. So in perfectly logical fashion, we're gonna start with a compression test here to hopefully get this guy cleaned up by the end of the day. Super happy with the compression test results. Way better numbers than what we had when we first got the car, so I am good with that. Number 2 or 3 was a little bit on the low side of things, 100 to 110. I'll have to go back and look at my footage to confirm which one it was, but everything else was 130 and up, which is fantastic. So as of now, short of some catastrophic disaster that I have not seen, we're going to save this drivetrain. So it'll get resealed. We'll freshen it up with some paint and drop it back in. I'll do a little investigating on to see if I can figure out why that one's a little bit low, maybe a stuck ring yet. Maybe a sticky valve, I don't know, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So for now, we're gonna get this guy ripped out and see if we can get this thing dropped down the ground and outside here today. All right, so transmission bolts are busted loose. Motor mounts are taken free. I think I've got all the wiring and whatnot loose. I'm gonna hang tight on upper and lower radiator hoses here in a second. I think that's it for getting all the engine components loose. Well, actually, matter of fact, I gotta get the shifter linkage stuff pulled loose. We'll zip that off quick, and then I think I'm good to drop this thing to the ground. Put it on my dollies, maybe shuffle it back in this corner or get this thing twisted at an angle so I get my hoist in front. Then we'll start yanking this thing out. Probably have to take the hood off as well. All right, I'm gonna give up being lazy. I was trying to leave all this intact and just rip it out all in one fell swoop without taking this front core support or anything out. I'm gonna give up at that. I'll take the time, go ahead and bust this fender off here, get the whole rest of this front clip removed. It'll be a little bit easier to get everything cleaned up anyway, so it doesn't cost anything, it's just the time. Seems like I always have more time than money, so that's no issue. Here we go, I'm gonna zip this off and we'll see how long it takes me to get all this ripped apart. All right, that guy's off. Man, these bolts up here in the front of this guy are just tough. This little splash shield or whatever you want to call it. You got one bolt that's on both sides was just chewed up to no end because it gets crammed up full here of dirt. And of course, then this all rots out. I thought this was good, but it turns out it's just super soft. So I'll have to patch that in or find new ones or whatever. So anyway, got a big old pile of parts going over here. At some point, I'm gonna have to sit down for a minute and start actually halfway sorting this stuff out and keeping it so I don't lose anything and bang up all the chrome and stainless. That was what my tub was for, and it turned into a drain pan for the day. So anyway, I'm gonna get back at this over here. Can't be much more. I got to get busted off this thing, and then it's getting kind of late, but I'm gonna try to get this thing snatched out of here today anyway. This thing, I think I'm going to utilize a couple of head bolts. Probably do 4. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to start probably 4, 2 in the front, 2 in the back on either side. We'll maybe stagger them or something. I'll get a chain in here. We'll start lifting that and see kind of how it goes. I don't have a load level or anything, so we'll be able to get creative with that and make something work. So I got to pop this valve cover off so I can get to the passenger side head bolts, and we'll kind of see what that entails. All right, so I had to make a quick run to the hardware store. Get some long enough bolts to replace a few of these head bolts so I can get a hold of this thing with a chain, snatch this guy out. I thought about using the rocker assembly bolts. They're 3/8, but since I'm leaving the transmission on, I was a little bit hesitant to do that. 1/2 inch we're going to go with. Should work just fine. If you're wondering why this blue tape is here, piece of stinking chrome plating came off one of my sockets and fell down on top of the lifter there in these little rod galleys. If I don't put that on there, I'm going to forget, so I'll have to fish that out at some point. But I think for now I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do to get these bolts installed, wrap this guy with a chain, get it snatched out. All right, so here goes nothing. We'll see if we can get a hold of this guy halfway decent, and out we go. So far, so good. Back at it again this morning to see if we can get knocked out today. That's the driveway that's an issue. So, game plan is I gotta get all this big junk out of here. I'm gonna take the car, drag it towards me, square it up to the opening. Then we will I'm gonna drop it off these dollies here, get it on its wheels. I'm gonna back the trailer up into here as close as I can get it. I'm gonna have to get creative with the winch because the car is obviously gonna need to be pulled down, but I'm also gonna have to keep the car from rolling down once I get it up on the trailer. So we'll get a little dicey there, but I've got like one good day of weather here. It's supposed to be 70 degrees today, and then the next day and a half after that it's supposed to snow. So gotta get this knocked out today so we can get it all dried back off, and in here we can keep on with our progress. So that's the game plan. We'll see if we can get knocked out. So where we're at here is this is where it kind of gets a little bit dicey. Ramps are uphill, trailer deck is downhill, much past the front of the tires is where kind of the breakover is. So at some point all my uphill becomes downhill, in which the car ends up at the front of the trailer, into the back of my pickup, bottom of the hill, whatever it may be. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unhook my winch line. I'm going to snatch block it off the back of the trailer, kick it back to the front of the car, and let the winch rope out a little bit at a time while pulling the car forward. That'll keep the car from rolling down. And then I'm going to swap the winch line that's pulling. I'm going to get a come along and go to the front of the trailer, and I'll just come along a little bit at a time while I can simultaneously let the winch line out. So that should work, and it'll take a little bit of time, but that's where we're going to start. All right, we're back here on level ground. That was quite the ordeal to get it back here, but it's done, so we'll start getting this thing cleaned up. I was contemplating just hauling this thing to the coin op because they've got a hot water wash. Be a little bit better to cut the grime and grease underneath the car, but I'm going to try to see what we can make happen with just a regular power washer here. I think I'm going to go ahead and throw this thing back up on the stands that it was on while it was in the garage. Was hoping to avoid that, but it is so much easier to get underneath it. I've got so much more height. I think I can do a way better job with it up on those stands. So take me a couple minutes to get it up there. Back up here, got this thing on stands. We'll drag the power washer out, hobble up underneath this thing, start making a mess and see how clean we can get it. I think it'll come out. Really just wanting to get a bunch of this loose junk knocked off so we can do some undercoat or whatever. There's gonna be a bunch of grime and grease and junk that's caked up that we'll probably get in here with a scraper and see if we can knock a bunch of that loose, but it's not gonna be perfect. And that's not what we're going for, just trying to get a little bit better than it is. So that's where we start, probably chew away at this for a couple hours and see kind of where we end up. All right, we are touchdown back inside. That is super sketchy. I absolutely hate doing that nonsense with the winch and the come along and the straps and whatnot, but this guy's in here for now, so hopefully next time this thing vacates, it'll be rolling out under its own power. I spent quite a bit of time yesterday scraping this frame, just getting all the years of road debris and grease and muck and all that cleaned up. Turned out halfway decent. I think it'll look nice when we go to freshen this guy up with some paint. Now, obviously, the main reason we drug it out was to just see if there's any body damage or anything hiding anywhere after we gave it a bath. Nothing that I wasn't already halfway aware of. This door needs a little bit of work. I noticed it was kind of off kilter here at the bottom. It's like this bottom hinge is tweaked out a little bit or something, so I'll add that to the to-do list. I've got one little ding over here in this back quarter we got to address, so we'll start on that this morning. Here's our couple extra roof skin dents that we pounded out over the weekend after we knocked out that big one in the last video. Reason I stopped with the large one was this kind of tapers over into this larger section, so got it all pretty well hammered out, so we can start with filling that in. I think it'll smooth out pretty nice, so be a little bit of time there to get it straightened up, but certainly better than it was. Driver's side is a little bit worse than the passenger in terms of little dings. I got a couple of them on this driver door here, and I think the rocker's got a little work down here on the bottom needs to be taken care of, so we'll start on those, and then a few on the back quarter. So probably what I'm gonna do this morning is I'm gonna start hitting all these guys with some filler. Obviously gonna knock this stuff down to probably 60 or 80 grit just to get some of that roughed up so that filler will adhere to it. But I'll probably jump back and forth between working on the frame and the undercarriage while that putty's setting up. So that's kind of our game plan. We're just gonna jump to it and see if we get knocked out here the next day or so. Be really nice to get a good jump on this, on the bodywork, that we can kind of cross that off our list. I don't know how well this is gonna show up, but I'm gonna start with these two little spots here I've got circled in Sharpie, just a few little dings. Now the rest of the car has got these little scratches and gouges and whatnot all down the car on both sides. I'm going to kind of ignore those for the time being. What I'm going to focus on is my super low areas and get them brought out to the correct height. And then once all the rest of my stainless and door hardware and whatnot is stripped off the car, we'll go over this thing and probably do like a quick guide coat to just get any sort of ripples and you know, all these little spots addressed that need to be taken care of. A lot of this will probably could be you know, cleaned up a little bit of high build primer, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, I'm going to focus on these guys right here, and I'm not going to spend a crazy amount of time just being sure this car is laser straight. My paint job's going to have enough orange peel in it to hide a lot of that stuff, and that's going to be done on purpose and not because I'm a horrible painter. So we'll start with these guys this morning, see if we get knocked out. All right, so I'm gonna knock this down a little bit more with kind of a block here. I really need a little bit longer sanding block, but the one I had an unfortunate incident next to a welder, so they don't fare too well with welding sparks, so I'll have to get a new one of those on the way. But we'll start with this and get it close, and then go from there. So as we've started wet sanding, there's a couple spots of issue that are starting to kind of present themselves. If you see right in here, we're getting into a little bit of primer and bare metal. Same thing in these spots, which means like right here, here, and over here is low, which kind of tapers off into this spot of damage. What looks like it's actually happened is there's a little bit of a crease that wraps around here, which means this skin has been pushed in to the kind of the door structure here. So we'll need to address that. I think I'm gonna stop where I'm at now and probably scuff up this corner, maybe from the stainless down here to 45, and get this whole bottom right corner of the door skim coated quick. And then what I'll have to do is this little small body block here is just not gonna cut it, because I can have all kinds of little undulations through there. So I'm gonna have to get a longer body block to get this real, as straight as I reasonably can. I'm gonna quick skim coat that. I'm gonna call around, see if anybody's got a longer body block local, or see if I can get one overnight or 2-day here, so I can get this door back to going. But I'm gonna hit this with a skim coat, jump across to some other stuff that I've already got some filler on, and then we'll come back to this guy over here. I think we're gonna forego the rest of the bodywork for today. I could not find the set of Durablocks that I want local to me. I went ahead and ordered a set. Should be here in a day or so. We can kind of resume work on this. I do have a kind of a quick crude coat smear on everything again. At some point, I'll probably just knock this down, the high edges of it, with the palm sander, but I'm not gonna worry about blocking this down. Let me, I'll take you for a quick once over, show you kind of the spots we hit, and then we can move on to some other stuff. So this is that corner of that door that we had to skim down. Found a little ding here. Had to do a little work on this quarter, not too bad there. Same kind of similar stuff we got going on the other side. Little guy here that we had to hit, and then 2 spots on this door. Had a little ding here we had to hit, same thing with here. I think this door has got a little bit of an issue, what's going on the other side, a little bit of a crease or kind of tweaked a little bit, and that's one of the reasons it's not fitting that great. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I think for now we're gonna hold off on all that. We're gonna hop to this undercarriage here, start kind of getting some of this cleaned up. I think a little bit of this needs to be scraped, and we'll need to clean it real well before we start coating it with anything. So we're gonna hop to that, and then maybe depending on how that goes, I really need to start getting the rest of this stainless and chrome stripped off, and at some point, the rest of this glass has got to come out. Depending on kind of how far we get with frame and undercarriage, we may hit the glass today as well. So just gonna jump to it and see kind of how far we get. I got some parts drying outside, so in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and hit this guy here. So I went through and scraped everything down a little bit better, wire welded some spots, and gave it a good bath with some brake clean. It is not perfect, but it's about as clean as I'm gonna get it. I'm just gonna knock this guy down with some rust stop black satin paint. This stuff's like $6 a can. It's got the little adjustable, flat spray nozzles. I don't know, I've had good luck with it on other projects. That's what I'm gonna use here. So I'm just gonna get the spray in, and this thing will be nice and shiny and brand new here in a couple minutes. Let this finish drying quick. Probably open my door up here, get a little airflow in here, let all this kind of lingering overspray waft out onto all the passing cars. We'll go grab a bite to eat quick, come back, we'll hit the rest of the frame, undercarriage, get that kind of knocked out, and then probably move on to some of this glass and stainless removal so we can get that checked off the list today. This thing is looking sharp. Super happy with how it turned out. I think we're gonna leave it at that. Cruise up underneath to kind of show you guys how the undercarriage turned out. Not quite as spiffy as the engine bay, but it'll certainly suffice. So you can see their floor pans patched in here. I'm good with those. A lot of this junk here is like hardened asphalt. So I don't know, somebody drove through a nasty mess of hot asphalt at some point and then it's just hardened on the bottom of this car like none other. I've spent a ton of time trying to get it off of the inside of the inner fenders and whatnot. Got most of it, but I am definitely just gonna leave this under here. It ain't gonna hurt a thing in the world. So a few spots I need to hit on the back side of the car yet, but I am out of paint, so we're gonna call it a day for undercarriage stuff. We're gonna go ahead and jump to glass. If you notice, this right here is broke. I know for a fact it was not broke when I bought the car. Only the other side was broke, so I imagine us flopping around working in here without any window felt or anything has caused this one to crack. Even more reason to go ahead and get these guys out. We'll try to halfway wrap them up in a bank blanket and stick them in a corner. I'm sure they'll all end up getting broke before it's all said and done, but so that's what we're gonna start on, get that ripped out, and we'll see how that goes. I have no idea how to get these things out, so we'll figure it out. All right, so I'm gonna try to get this glass out. I'm recording this on first take as if I know what I'm doing, so I'm probably gonna struggle for a little bit, but see if I can figure out how to get this thing out. Well, that one's gone forever. I'm gonna roll this glass up, I think. I feel like this should be dropping down. Maybe I should have left that glass down. I'm sure someone's screaming at their monitor right now. I don't know if I'm trying to unlock the door or not. Drop something first. What am I missing? Bingo. One down, 3 more to go. Back one's probably gonna be a little bit easier because I don't have that vent window to deal with. Most of the glass is out. I'm fighting this rear passenger window a little bit. It's kind of sticky down low. The fasteners are pulled out of it, so I've got some penetrant soaking on it. I'm probably gonna let that sit overnight. I'll get a little bit rougher with it in the morning. It should just slide right out. I think I'm gonna hang tight on pulling this rear glass for the time being. I may go ahead and order a gasket for it. That way I can have this guy out for as short amount of time as possible because I can only see that getting broke around here. Stainless is coming off pretty good. Ruining a few fasteners in some spots, but all in all, it's like I said, it's coming apart halfway decent. Some of the Phillips screws that are around the perimeters here are kind of stripped out, so I'm having to take a 90 grinder with a wheel and slot it so I can get a bigger flathead on it with a little bit more leverage. But other than that, not horrible. Got a couple pieces over here. On this side, we got to attend to yet. Got this back and then this driver door. So I'm gonna snip those out quick, and then I think I'm gonna call it a night, and then we'll start fresh in the morning. All right, we were starting again fresh this morning. Got a few pieces of stainless on the other side I didn't quite get to. They were a little bit sticky, so I hit them with some penetrant last night. I'm gonna let those guys soak for a little bit longer, and hopefully they'll come off this afternoon without any damage. In the meantime, I went in and hit these floors with a vacuum and some acetone. I thought since we did the frame and the engine bay yesterday, this would be a good time to go ahead and hit these with some black paint, kind of freshen things up a little bit. Same thing with the trunk floor. Game plan for today is gonna be start on these two. We'll see where that puts us later on this afternoon. I need to spend a little bit of time cleaning this place up as well as looking at our parts list to be sure I don't need anything coming to continue progress. So that's kind of the game plan for the day. I'm gonna jump to this, we'll get started with this and kind of see where that puts us later on. Listen, if you squint real hard and look the other direction, you could almost convince a person you got new floors. I would say that is $15 in paint well spent. I think I'm going to hang tight and let these floors finish drying for now. I'll move on and take care of the trunk floor this afternoon. In the meantime, this place is a disaster of a mess. I'm going to spend a little bit of time cleaning up, kind of getting organized, putting back where it's supposed to go. My Durblocks are en route, so with any luck, I'll get a jump start of that tonight, maybe over the weekend. Try to get some of that bodywork put behind us because I am not looking forward to it. So I think it's pretty well going to do it for this episode. We've made a lot of progress, but still got a long ways to go yet. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for future updates.